Hello, and good evening to everyone who's joining in this week's episode of Disruptive Technologies, a Malawian Perspective. So, before I move on, I'm just going to ask everyone to like, subscribe, comment, and engage with the session. So, this week, we're going to have an episode on digital public infrastructures. So, for the past week, I have been posting some things on my social media. So at first, I asked how people have been getting identified as citizens of their countries, like how it's been done in the past and how it's being done now. So I got a couple of interesting responses. One of them said um, that their country used to ask for letters and stuff from like your village and stuff. And they said the rest of it was vibes. And then I also got another interesting response that said that we are misusing the chips on our national IDs as Malawians. So I think those were the interesting responses that I got. So, as I was saying, this week we have an interesting guest who's going to introduce us to digital public infrastructures, tell us exactly what they are and how we can benefit from it, if there's any challenges, and anything else that's involved when it comes to digital public infrastructures. So, without much, I'm just going to give it over to you, Vincent, and you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Phyllis. As you said, my name is Vincent Kumwenda. I'm currently working with the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change in areas of tech policy, digital governance, strategy, and a few projects around digital space. But before that, I worked with MHub, Malawi's First Technology and Innovation Hub, first as a community manager and also as a CEO for some time. But my background is more electrical and electronics engineering. I'm a fully certified ATM engineer. So I worked for Gestetna in Sierra Malawi before I joined the tech and the digital world. Yeah, so that's me. Yeah.
All right. I'm really excited to have you on this episode. I'm so excited to have you. As I was just talking to Vincent, my first kind of encounter with Vincent was I was going through my LinkedIn and I saw someone like or react to a post, which led me to read his Medium blog post on digital public infrastructures and digital public goods, which for me was the very first kind of detailed explanation on what exactly these things are and the possibilities and what it can do. And from
Yeah.
there, it's just been like a rabbit hole. Like I'm just
Yeah.
getting in, and now I'm more interested. I want to know more. So yeah,
Yeah.
you're like a perfect guest for this episode.
I know.
Um,
Digital
so
public infrastructure. Yeah, it's like a new shiny
yeah,
thing.
so this week, exactly, it is digital public infrastructures, digital transformation. Those are the interesting things right now. Yeah. Yeah, so this week we're just gonna do something a little bit different because the past weeks we've been doing kind of like presentation and then a Q&A at the end. But this week we're just gonna go through a Q&A between me and Vincent. And if you have any questions or if there's anything you'd like to know more, you can just post it in the comments and I'm gonna share it with Vincent. So without wasting much time, I'm just gonna ask. So, what exactly is digital public infrastructure? I think we all know what digital is, or public, or infrastructure, but together, what exactly is it?
Yeah, thank you for that. Like I said, the digital public infrastructure, it's kind of a new shiny thing that the whole world is talking about now, but it has evolved over the last 2 decades because I think the key elements of digital public infrastructure have been around for quite some time. So there are three key elements. If there is digital identity, the digital payments, and the data exchange systems. So basically, these three things would make like foundational systems for which are like more interoperable and can be linked to different services. People can build on top of them, and they can be able to share either between government, citizens, and other businesses. They can be able to build on top of that. So it's totally a bit different from things like maybe just a government website or just a mobile app and all that. There could be a number of systems on top of the digital like public infrastructure. So basically what it is more like a foundational digital systems that enable seamless digital interactions between citizens, governments, and businesses, but on top of these three components. Yeah. Phyllis, are you there? You can hear me? Phyllis, can you hear me?
Okay, I'm back.
Oh,
So you were explaining on digital public infrastructures and how there's identity, yes,
yeah.
data centers, and there was one other thing, yes.
Yeah. So it's more the three elements: the digital
Okay,
identity.
great. So I think the other,
I think your
yeah,
network is a little bit bad. Yeah.
digital identities, data
Yeah.
centers.
And data exchange systems. Yeah.
Okay, now I'm back.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just move on. So that being exactly what digital public infrastructure is, I think maybe now people can have the idea of why I was asking about the national IDs and the identities to be like, okay, so digital identities are a part of digital public infrastructure. So as you were saying, it's something that has been around, but we just. So are there any other like countries or places that have like digital public infrastructures that are like a big thing? It's not a new thing, or like is this something that other countries have been using for a while now?
Yes. So as much as it's been around for quite some time, but it has taken different forms. I think from the early 2000s, examples are like I think there's Estonia X-Load. It's one of the most popular DPIs for quite some time now. Around 2001, that's when they started building like proper, secure digital IDs. But now the actual way DPI started making rounds in around 2010s, simply because of what India had done. India had built what is called the India Stack around 2009, and then 2020 it picked up. It kind of now ignited the whole conversations around foundational, interoperable, and seamless digital public infrastructure. So India launched the other nationality around 2009. They also have the UPI payment system, and then they also have like a DigiLocker. They all of them make what is called the India Stack, and then the international community picked up the conversation. I think the World Bank through ID for development, UNDP, they've been pushing. I feel right now they're pushing something that they're calling 50 by 5. So the idea for them is that they need to support at least 50 countries by 2028 to plan, design, and deploy DPIs in their countries, leveraging on this. And now they've linked them up. A lot of UN systems now have linked up DPIs to sustainable development goals. So that's where we are heading to now. So around 2010s, 2018s, I think, and then the global digital compact also picked in and has started talking about digital public infrastructure. And most recently, I think the G20 has also been part of that conversation. So it's picked up steam now. The idea is to get away from maybe more proprietary, more kind of locked-in systems. A lot of systems, I can give examples even here in Malawi, where you're locked in into a particular system. If you purchase a system from a particular company, they can lock you into the system. So you have to use their consumables. They specify that this system will only print on this type of printer. You only print it on this type of paper. You only print it on using this type of toner, and all those things that even plastic cards and all that. Sometimes you even fail to scale, to build on top of it, and even to open up APIs for other people to build on top of those systems. So DPI is kind of breaking those boundaries. Yeah.
All right, great. I love how you've mentioned India, because I've been seeing India a lot when it comes to digital public infrastructures, and I feel like one of the countries that have gone very far when it comes to this. And I think the other interesting thing you've mentioned is they had the national IDs in 2010, and I'm thinking, where were we in 2010? Because our national IDs are not that old.
We're not
So
far. We started 2017.
yes,
2017, and we're one of the, at least we've got a robust
yeah.
national ID system. I think it's now the interoperability and the scalability part of things that we can now talk about. How best can that be enhanced beyond what we already have as a foundational digital ID system?
All right, great. And the one thing that you've mentioned a lot was interoperable or interoperability. So I wanted you to kind of expand more on that and to kind of say what exactly is it and why is it a characteristic of DPI that matters? And yeah.
Yeah, so I think a very good example would be how things operate here. If you want to build, let's say to get a passport, it starts from the first stage. They can collect all your data from ground up until you get your passport. You also go and do the same thing if maybe you want to do a driving license. And then you also want to register a SIM card, you do the same thing. So where DPI and interoperability comes in is that these systems need to be talking together. You're able to share data. Sometimes you can start, instead of starting from stage one, you can start at stage 5 because the other system is already holding your information on stage, the first 4 stages and all that. And then there could be other data exchanges that you need to do. You need to share data and all that. So in a layman's language, like interoperability is that systems should be able to speak together, should be able to share data, they should be able to be able even to share resources in some instances. Because right now, sometimes if you want to build a system, if I start up today, I want to build a system that uses a national ID or uses a payment gateway. I need to build the payment gateway myself sometimes, the whole plumbing myself. But if DPIs are accessible like this and are interoperable, they'll just give me an API that I just pull data from them and then build my system on top of an already existing system. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for that explanation. Actually, when I was reading one of the articles by the UNDP, they actually recognized interoperability to be one of the probable like technical risks that are there when it comes to DPI. But it's good to know that you like the explanation you gave is very like the description was very good, and it kind of gives us an idea of how important it is to have these systems sharing the data like amongst all these departments. So
Yeah, on that one,
yeah,
before you go, on that one, I think the important thing to consider is that this data is shared according to different data privacy laws that you have in your country,
yes,
data protection laws and all that. That's where maybe
yeah,
the danger is. It's not just because you want to be interoperable, you just share data anyhow, or even
yeah.
personal data sometimes. So it's respect to the various data protection or data privacy laws that you have in a particular jurisdiction. Yeah.
All right, that's yeah, great. And the other thing that you mentioned was how like we start applying for passports, you start from the ground up, or like trying to get a driver's license, you start from the ground up as well. So is DPI something that when it comes to public services, are we just now accessing passports and driver's licenses, or it's something that for public service delivery in Malawi, like how vast can the applications be? Like, what other applications are there apart from immigration and the road traffic system?
So I think looking at the concept of DPI, starting with the national identity, like a digital identity. So the idea is that digital identity should be able to link seamlessly to healthcare systems. If you want to build a system, the foundation layer should be the national ID, because eventually you need someone to be identified eventually. So are they a real citizen of the country? Are they active? And is the ID valid and all those things? So you need to verify that. So for healthcare, education, social protection, you should be able to link those systems in advance, instead of maybe building a different database that identifies the same people. So the national ID as a DPI would be your foundational layer for that. Similarly, with the payments, assuming this system will require you to pay for, or you call as citizens to pay, payment gateways would save like that way as a DPI that would enable you to pay for particular services that you want, whether in healthcare, education, or any other agricultural services that you need to do. So that's why you need these foundational DPIs that would essentially they are needed everywhere, and then instead of rebuilding them, redeveloping them every time that you need to build a system, they should be there, and then people build on top of that. You just release APIs to connect with the other systems. Could be an EKYC, like electronic know your customer system and all that. Those could also come in very handy and support that. For example, I think the other ID card in India, it managed, when it was launched, even up to now, it managed to eliminate ghost beneficiaries from welfare programs, saving billions in fraudulent activities. So it helps in terms of public service delivery. But I was reading a report recently. I'll share with you a link to that report from Lighthouse. It's titled "The False Promise of Biometrics." So they are kind of going through 3 different countries that have implemented national IDs, and they're trying to link if the implementation of national IDs as DPIs has resulted in the much touted service delivery or socio-economic transformation and all that. So they're doing Mozambique, DRC, and Uganda. They are making some very good arguments. I think one of the arguments is that some of the money is going back to the big tech companies and building all the systems and all that. But it's up to people to judge, I think, based on how they understand what's there. But in other contexts and in other areas, the linkage between DPIs and public service delivery is very, 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 very wide. So you can do in education, in health. For example, I think DigiLocker in India, you can be able to connect, like people are able to store all their education credentials in a particular locker that is safe and secure, and can be you can be able to track progress of students and all those things. So there are a lot of DPIs that are also focused on those areas. Yeah.
All right, great. I actually love this conversation because I think every answer you're giving is giving me more questions to ask. We're gonna have to do a part 2 at this rate. But now that you've told me of the public services that can actually benefit from DPIs, I just wanted to know, like, does this mean that this is specific for public service delivery, or this can somehow benefit the private sector as well, or it's just strictly public delivery? Yeah, public service delivery.
No. The good thing with the DPIs is that it's both. So it's a linkage between governments, businesses, and even citizens, even to access the services. So sometimes there are some DPIs that have linked up with banks, like I was mentioning the EKYCs. So banks would build on top of that. So the whole idea is, because some of these DPIs are very, very expensive to build, and you require maybe a lot of resources to do that. So governments would maybe shoulder the burden at early stages, and then open up for other entities to build on top of those systems, or even just to link and all that. So it's not just focused on public services, it can also include other services, and other private players can also link up to that. I think there are examples all over the world. I think in the EU, a number of countries, Sweden, Denmark, Belgium, they do have the EID card, and it's connected to a lot of services that people would want to request. And if they can easily verify the status of a particular citizen using those EIDs, even in private businesses. But they have to hit the DPI to understand that this person is really a citizen, is a card valid, and all those things. So it's both, and it's easy. The interoperability now comes in to kind of link all those. I think it's even easy, like in countries like Malawi, for third-party players, maybe startups, making startups that want to build systems, and if they cannot manage to build the whole ID system, or just to a system that would work on that, they will just build a portal that links to the API, and maybe they're able to verify their customers using that. Yeah.
All right, great. So we've spoken about, you were saying about the article that you read on like inclusion and how if DPIs are actually, I don't know, like improving social inclusion and everything. So is this something that we are actually seeing in Malawi? Like, is this improving social inclusion or like financial inclusion, bridging the digital divide, and all these kind of buzzwords when we talk about some of the challenges that we're facing as a country?
Yes, we are in very early stages of like DPIs. If I would use the DPIs in Malawi, we're very early stages. You mentioned the national ID. The national ID is doing very, very, very great in terms of linkages, different social services, even banking services. Now you cannot do bank services without a national ID. But where we need to move away from is scanning the national ID to a seamless linkage, where maybe you just hit the system. There are some systems that can hit the national ID DPI at the moment. I also know of a system that government has developed. I think you can check on the bomala2.gov.mw. It's called Bomala2. It's more like a data exchange platform. It's also a form of a DPI in a way. So the idea is to bring out different government services into one place. Back end, they're sharing data, but on the top, the people are able. It's more like a service portal that people can be able to access different government services on that portal. So we're heading there, but there's still more work to be done, especially linkages. I can give examples of other systems that are kind of medical records. I've been keeping a lot of records for a patient to go to a particular hospital today. You find that instead of starting from step 1, you start maybe from step 5 because they've already given your records at each facility. So there is access to health services, and the same with the financial inclusion. I think elements of EKYC, maybe credit scoring to an extent, and even social cash transfer elements like those. So there's still more to be done, but we are making headway in terms of the foundational layout of this.
Okay, so as I said, like one of my first encounters with you was when I read your article on digital public goods as well. So just to touch a little bit on that, like what exactly are the digital public goods? How do they relate to digital public infrastructures? And is this something that is actually happening in Malawi at the moment?
It is. So the difference between digital public infrastructure, the DPGs are more on the solutions part, and these can be even public sector solutions and all that. I think very good examples. There is a payment platform which is also interoperable. It's called Mojarup. I think it's a lot of payment providers have been supporting Mojarup as a digital public good. And then there are also systems like, I think, an education platform in India as well called Diksha is one of the digital public goods. Even DHIS2, I think, in health is one of the digital public goods. So the whole idea is that people now are able to access these services in a shareable and operable manner, and people can build on top of those systems and have their own solutions and all that. So yes, there are a number of DPGs like cooperating in Malawi. And the good thing is that Malawi is a member of the Digital Public Alliance. They signed up to be a member of the Digital Public Alliance a couple of years back. And if you go online, there's a whole website which details which DPGs are active and in which areas. There are DPGs in agriculture, in health, in education, and all that. The good thing with most of these, especially DPGs, are open source. They're not linked or completely like proprietary. DPGs can be a combination of both, proprietary and open source. But most of the DPGs, you need to be certified to become a DPG, and most of the things that they would require for you to achieve should also meet the open standards. Yeah.
All right, great. And when you spoke about the digital public goods, I think one of the things that you addressed and which you mentioned at the beginning as well was how using proprietary softwares is something that kind of sets us back when you have to update the system and stuff and all these things, and the fact that it's not interoperable because it's kind of it can only do what they sold it to you to do. So you can't integrate data like within different systems or like across different systems. So the other thing that I wanted to ask was I don't know, this could be a bit controversial, or maybe I'm jumping to conclusions here, but sometime last year there was like a cyber security concern with our immigration system here in Malawi. So I just wanted
Yes.
to ask, like, was that something that had to do with the fact that we had a specific software, or like we have a specific software that is not a DPG, basically? Is that like
Um,
one of the consequences of not using DPGs? Like you can get hacked and it's a whole thing.
I'll be speculating if I say that I know the details. I think yeah, for the sake of this, I'll let it pass. But we know, I
Okay.
think that there's an issue that happened and we were hacked and we don't have passport for quite some time. So yes, it's a major concern. But to attribute it directly to DPIs and DPGs, I'll be lying because I have a lot of details about that. Yeah.
All right, okay. So the other thing, like when it comes to these DPIs and like DPGs, is it needs to have like a stable ICT infrastructure for you to set everything up. So I don't know, like when it comes to the ICT infrastructure itself, like without even getting too deep into the DPIs and DPGs, like is it like how prepared are we, or like how prepared should Malawi be basically for us to like seamlessly just have like a proper DPI?
That's a great question because I think our emphasis the last few years has been on foundational infrastructure, like actual physical infrastructure. So we've laid down a lot of cables as a country, a lot of optical fiber cables connecting all the districts in the country, like all the 28 districts. Almost every district, you'll find a cable, like a fiber cable, internet connectivity. There are multiple even optical fiber cables running up, either up or down, connecting different places. So, as much as there are issues of maybe actual last mile connectivity and probably cost and all those things, but we can confidently say that the whole country has optical fiber connectivity in those areas, whether it's ending at the district commissioner's office and then they take it to other places and all that. But that's that. And then we've seen the coming in of data centers. We've got a national data center in Blanta, which was launched a couple of years back. And then there's another national data center that is coming in here. And there are a number of systems that have been developed over the years. to me, that's a very good foundational start for DPIs, because you need connectivity, you need storage, and you need systems to sit on top of those. I think what is remaining is now to start developing with that in mind. We're developing systems, but sometimes the systems that are being developed are more focused on just one angle, or just thinking about a particular service and not thinking about maybe data exchange and all that. So we have very good foundation on top of that. We can do more, yes, other areas, but we have a very good start that we can now start building on top of that, so that we can break the silos of every developer comes in and they develop their own system, and then they close the doors for another ministry comes in, develops their own system, and then they close another. But if we're able to start these systems to speak to each other, now we are going to the speed of DPIs and TPGs, and there's a lot of support that is coming in. Like I said, UNDP is committed a lot of funds to say that they're going to support 50 countries in the next 5 years to build DPGs, because they know the importance that they have in terms of interoperability, inclusion, scalability, and all that. But the other challenge would be scalability. So apart from the foundation things that are there, you need to make sure that they're scaled, and then you're able to sustain them in the long run. Because if they're sitting in the data centers and you need connectivity and all that, you need continuous support that they're sustained, because they are carrying a lot of systems. So if your DPI is not functional, it means you're affecting a lot more that are dependent on you. Yeah.
All right, great. So I think the other thing that I think mostly we have focused on, like, the digital identities, but we really haven't spoken a lot on the data centers. I think this is something that we've been seeing in the news. We've seen, there's like a data center, I don't know, it's in Blantyre or Lilongwe, and then I have seen the new data center that they're building. So, like, maybe just for everyone, like, how important are these data centers for us to kind of have a fully functional digital public infrastructure? And is it just the biometric data that they collect when we register for our digital identities, or like our IDs? Or I don't know, like, what other data is being kept in the data centers? And I think, like, a follow-up on that is our Digital Data Protection Act came in last year, because I saw that it's the 2024 Data Act.
Yes,
But
yes.
we've been collecting all this data before then. So how protected was the data before we had the Digital Data Act? Yeah,
No,
I don't know, like, answer this, yeah.
We are protected now. Of course, I think before that, there was a Electronic Transactions and Cybersecurity Act of 2016. It had some elements of data protection and privacy, very, very, very tiny bits, but I think they were working in those areas. But now we have a standalone Data Protection Act. As you said, I think it was accented to by the president in February last year, and it's been operational from June last year. And just this week, the last week, the Malawi Communication Regulatory Authority, who are also the host of the Data Protection Office, we are doing a Data Protection Week, like awareness across the country, telling people of what it is all about, data protection and privacy, and what is expected of them as the data protection calls them as the data subjects, and then all the other people interested in collecting data and how they need to comply with the Data Protection Act. So yes, that's also another pillar that is very important for the implementation of DPIs and DPGs, because the policy and regulatory framework also has to be strong on that. In terms of data centers, so in the past, what has been happening is that if people want to develop systems, you obviously need somewhere to host your data. So whether it's ministries, departments, agencies, or companies, and all that, so they would either buy their own servers. So you go to Capitol Hill today, you find a lot of ministries having like small servers. This is servers host the system, this is host that system, and all that. So basically, what the data centers are doing is trying to kind of consolidate all that and bring a bit of coordination. So some would host their data maybe in on premises, like using their servers and all that. Some would host in clouds. So there's a lot of data from Malawi and systems that a vendor would come in, a contractor would come in. Okay, we're going to host it somewhere else. Even the owner of the system doesn't even know where the data is and who is hosting it and all that. As long as it's functioning and they're okay with that. So with the coming in of the data centers, it's easy now to consolidate all these efforts. All these systems can easily be pushed to one place. It's also okay. Government can come up with their own government cloud and be able to kind of give access to different stakeholders within government to access hosting facilities within that. But it's also even the physical presence of that. Sometimes it's very expensive to create like a conducive environment for servers and all that, the cooling, the power and all that. So what is called co-location in the data centers is easy for them now to take in their server and then they'll be given space in the data center and they can operate within the environment that has been created within the data center. So that is a positive step because it kind of cuts a bit of a budget in terms of hosting data, but it also gives government so much control over hosting facilities, coordination, collaboration, and even building some of these systems now very easily with the data that is there. In terms of the data that is collected, I think the Data Protection Act is very clear in terms of which data do you need consent for, or people cannot or can revoke consent and all that. I think it's very robust. You probably in one of your shows you should consider talking about data protection alone because there are a lot of things that people need to know about the data that is collected, either when they're doing the national registration or SIM card registration or opening a bank account or even a very good example. I always laugh when I see this in Kenya. There's a nursery school that was fined by the Data Protection Authority because they were collecting data wrongly and not complying to the Data Protection Act. You'd think a nursery school is just not that entity, but because they breached the Data Protection Act and they were not using the data according to the law, they were fined. And there are a lot of companies that have been fined in Kenya based on their Data Protection Act because it's been around for quite some time. And we should learn lessons. It has not started like that here in Malawi. There's still some steps that are being taken, but it's important that people need to know about that. And it speaks to the different systems that we're talking about now, even DPIs and DPGs, because we are collecting a lot of personal data from people who sometimes don't give consent, and sometimes their data is not used for the intended purposes.
Yeah, that's true. I think now to kind of bring you back, so one of the benefits of having a digital public infrastructure is it allows like governments to bring these services that we used to access, I don't know, manually. Now it's bringing the service to you because you can now access like these things online and stuff. You don't have to physically go. But I don't know, like the digital public infrastructure in Malawi, like, do you think the fact that most of the country isn't online kind of slows it down? Like, does the fact that most of the country isn't online or does not have access to be online, the digital divide is high? Does this affect the implementation of the digital public infrastructure? And if it is at all possible to create, I don't know, like, because I know that I think now, like, at least from the last time I checked, like 50% of the country at least has access to the phone or somewhere around there. Like they have access to a phone, but they're not necessarily online. So how is this hindering the implementation of kind of, services that are brought about by digital public infrastructures?
Yeah, actually, the whole digital transformation journey is should pay attention to digital literacy and digital access. It's because these are the customers, these are the consumers of the digital services that are being built and all that. So but it doesn't mean that simply because a very big part of the country is not online or is not able to access some of the digital services or the digital services that are being put in place, then we should fold our hands and just accept the status quo and leave it like that. Actually, Malawi is at a very, very, very huge advantage in terms of because of those numbers. It's easy or it's a very good opportunity to do things right and in the right way and focus on the critical aspects that will transform people's lives using the digital services. Because some of the things that we are dealing with in Malawi are a matter of life and death. So if we are able to prove that digital transformation is what is standing between someone living and someone dying, then people will adopt digital. If we are able to prove that digital is what transforms someone's economic life from here to there, people will adopt it. I think the key thing is to package those like case studies, like proper case studies. That's where the SDGs is coming in very, very, very important because they're touching on the like aspects of human life, like very, very, very critical aspects of human life. So it's a very big opportunity to digitize things now and make sure that people are able to access services now because eventually we'll be able to solve some of the problems that people have been facing in Malawi, and they can easily be solved by technology. And another opportunity is for us to accelerate some of the things that we've been struggling with for years. Digital transformation, whether we're using DPIs or DPGs or any other digital services, can easily push things that we've been struggling with in agriculture, in health, in education, natural resources, and all those things by incorporating digital transformation in all those things. But we need to do the things the right way, and we need to make sure that we are coordinated and moving in the right direction together. So I don't look at it as a like a hindrance per se. Yes, it's a concern because as long as an average Malawian wakes up and doesn't interact with the digital service each and every day, it will be difficult for us to prove the importance of a digital service to them. What we need to be doing, which is happening in a lot of instances, is we should be able to move in a balanced way. When we are investing in digital infrastructure, we're investing in policies, we should also invest in skills, both at the level of decision making, but also at the level of consumption. And lastly, on that one, even economic transformation, I'm sure that if Malawi is determined and position itself as a digital transformation country, we can be able to export digital skills and we can be able to generate even more. And we can position ourselves as a regional hub for digital services or digital transformation. And probably somehow maybe replace or bring in alongside agriculture and other economic like forex earners that we've been relying for years and years. But there's a very huge possibility that if we are very, very intentional and very, very transformative in this way, we can be able to take digital as the like the enabler for our socioeconomic development. I'm not even talking about AI here. I've not touched on AI, but just basic digital transformation. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually love that you said that now we are positioned like in a place where if we do this the right way, then it could change things entirely. Because I think the thing about most disruptive technologies or disruptive innovations is most people who kind of implement the innovations in the early stages or at the beginnings, they kind of learn the hard way, but everyone else who's late
Yeah.
learns from other people's mistakes. So,
Yeah.
I mean, in as much as we started late, there's a lot of work that has already been done that we can learn and kind of improve from. We don't have to create this thing from scratch. So,
Yeah.
I think at this point, I'm just going to give the audience also a chance to ask some questions. If anyone has a question for you, then they can ask. Yeah. I'm just going to give it a minute or a
Yeah.
second. Yeah. Okay, but as we wait, like in the meantime, I know we spoke about the private sector and that they also have the opportunity to use this same digital public infrastructures like the banks and stuff. But the one thing that I kind of want to use the webinar for is to kind of change the mindset from being consumers or adopters of other people's technologies, but like also it kind of encourage entrepreneurship, creating our own solutions, creating value. How can we sell? So for someone who, I don't know, has a tech startup, let's just say even in fintech, how exactly can they adopt, I don't know, DPGs or use DPI, or like who exactly do they have to approach to be like, hey, I'm creating this thing, I don't know, I need uh, people's, I don't know, data. How does someone go about it to kind of work on their innovations as well?
Yeah, yeah. So I think a good start is for DPGs. A good start is there's a DPG link where all the DPGs are listed. Every DPG that is certified is linked on that. I know of systems that have been built on top of Mojaroop. They've used Mojaroop as a maybe a P2P like P2P payment gateway and all that. I know of systems that have been built on top of other DPGs that are out there and all that. So at a minimum level, someone who is developing a system would need identification if they need identification. So it's easier for them to link with the national ID, maybe for their identification of their customers or citizens and all that. Let's say you are developing something that you need maybe a payment gateway and all that. So you can also link up with different payment gateways and all that, which are to an extent part of DPIs, depending on where you are and how robust they've been and how open they've been made for you to do that. It also saves them time to build something from ground up because you don't have to start from scratch to build something up. So you can always get that data and use it. For instance, maybe I'm doing a public expenditure tracking system, and I would want to know maybe how government finances and all that. I can be able to pull some data from a DPI and be able to save it as foundational data that I can use, that and even and go on top of that. I think there are systems like OpenStreetMap that have been operating for quite some time. You need maps, and I cannot go out and start mapping each and every location in my area and all that. Using OpenStreetMap would help me to build on top of such. So there are those systems that are available, but a very good start is the Digital Public Goods Alliance website. There's a list of which systems can DPGs and can be used. DPIs. Different countries have been operating in different ways. I think, like I was giving an example of India Stack, whether India Stack has got a portal where you're able to access some of these APIs and all that. And that's another thing that is a bit challenging in countries like Malawi, where if you've got a system and you want that system to be built by third-party players, you need at least a portal where people can be able to get the APIs or even a sandbox that people can be able to understand what the system works and try out and connect it, and then they are able to learn early on what integrating with your system looks like, and proper documentation and all that. So systems like, I know Airtel Money, there's a public API, and then they have a portal where you can test out some of their different APIs. So systems like Bamba need to be open, that people can be able to access APIs and build on top of those. I know a lot of emerging entities, I think Paystack and different players are now opening up their own sandboxes that people can be able to build on top of those. So in some instances, some would have their own portals to do that. I'm looking forward to a day when we're also going to have our own Malawi stack, where if you're in government, you want to develop a system, this would be the first port where you go to understand how do the systems, what's the like the software systems that government or the software that government would recommend, or build their systems on top of those and all that. So you start from there. What's the government stack? How does it look like? What are the guidelines? What's the position of government in terms of cloud and all that? Instead of maybe vendors dictating to government ministries, MDAs, and telling them that we're going to build a system in this language or in this software and all that. But I think that progressive systems now, governments would have a stack where they tell you that this is our starting point, and you can only build within these parameters, and hosting is like this. So it's like properly controlled and secure, and they also tell you the different open standards that you can be able to do that. So yeah, we're going there.
Okay, great. So there's no question today, so I guess we'll be finishing early. But just to give you an opportunity, like if you have any last thing that you'd like to share with everyone who's watching and people who are going to listen in later on, just when it comes to digital public infrastructures, maybe something that you're excited about, something that you're looking forward to, something that Malawians should be on the lookout for, or even people who are not Malawian, like just wanting to know how, I don't know, digital public infrastructures could benefit Malawi.
I'll just reiterate the unique opportunity that Malawi has to leverage digital public infrastructures and digital public goods for economic transformation. I think the key for us is to start building inclusive, secure, and the interoperable systems that empower citizens, businesses, and government institutions. Like I said, in other countries now, you cannot start building an app today. You find that there's an app for that. There's an app for that. Every app is been developed and all that. But here, the thread is very open, wide open. That we can be able to develop any system on top of some of these DPIs that are being developed, and then we can be able to solve some of the key challenges that we are facing. And then number two, I think what I would say is for a majority of Malawians, they don't care about the technicalities of our systems, our digital transformation and everything, all the DPIs and all that. All they need is, can this solve my problem? So can we understand the problems of people that are facing, and then can we solve them with the digital solutions? And all that. I know I can give examples of over the years. I think even with my time at MHub, people would come in and pitch like systems to me, and I see the system like this works technically, doesn't that. But have you spoken to the people that are going to use it? What are they saying? Have interfaced with them? So I think most of the times tech people prefer maybe to work in isolation, and then they just develop a system. As long as you click the buttons, things are working. They use the latest shiny tools that they found. But is it really addressing the issues that people are facing? So maybe we need to be transcending towards that. And very last, I think there's a very strong political will and government push in terms of infrastructure, policy, and skills. And it's happening. I think there's a lot of things that are happening. There are projects like Digital Malawi, the UNDP Inclusive Digital Transformation Project, the IDs, and all those things. There are a lot of things that are being done in that space. I think it's time that we took advantage of those and start thinking of building services now on top of that. E-commerce services, education services, agriculture extension services, health services, fintech services. I think there's been a very, very great like progress in terms of fintech and all that. But we need more in terms of what digital can do. I still believe, I strongly believe that Malawi can produce a digital unicorn in the next 5 years. So with the support that is being provided now, we can produce a digital unicorn, a system developed by Malawians that is being used by over half of the population. People should wake up like we do Facebook, WhatsApp. People should wake up that I need to use the Malawian system because it's functioning and it's solving a problem and it's able to generate money to the level of a unicorn and bring us forex. So I believe in the digital transformation. I believe in Malawi. I believe that sometimes all we need, even a young man sitting in Tarire with a great idea, with a laptop, with internet connectivity, they can be able to solve the problems that we've been grappling with for years. Thank you.
All right, that was great. That was great. Hopefully, the people who are listening in have grabbed something because you've said a lot of things that are on, I guess, many people's minds. The unicorns, which is something that I'd like to address. Hopefully, in the near future, this is something that I'm going to talk about. Yeah, and creating local solutions for local problems. Like we can't always wait for someone to bring us a solution when they don't really understand our issues or like when they're not I don't know, part of us, or we are creating solutions for problems that we've seen other people have and not the people in our communities. So, thank you so much, Vincent. This has been a very informative session. I would love to have a part two. Hopefully, I'll kind of conjure something up and I'll let you know. But this has been great. Thank you so much for doing this episode. And I hope that everyone watching now knows what I was talking about when I mentioned those national IDs. So that is a part of Malawi's digital public infrastructure. And I hope that you get to look into it more and you get to learn more about Malawi's digital transformation and everything that's going on. So thank you and good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.